from Alabama. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate being with you, Mr. Visclosky. This is my third year.
Thank you, as was Ms. McSally and others before us. Thank you for being here.
Well,
again.
I appreciate it. And I've been with you, this is my third time, to talk about two very important ships for the United States Navy, the Littoral Combat Ship and what's now called the Expeditionary Fast Transport vessel, which used to be the Joint High-Speed vessel. I get confused when they change the name, so I want to remind you what they were. This committee has been very supportive of these two programs in the past. And before I go any further, let me thank you for your past support. It's very important. This program, as you will recall from the very beginning, going back to the Clinton administration when this was first conceived, was put together as a 52-ship buy between two shipyards, one in Mobile, Alabama, where I'm from, and the other in Marinette, Wisconsin, Congressman Ribble's district. The Navy liked having two shipyards. The shipyards like having the competition, believe it or not, and what we've gotten out of are two excellent vessels at an incredibly good price, with the price coming down. Under the directive of Secretary Carter, as codified in the release of the President's fiscal year 2017 budget, they're now taking actions to decrease the number of LCS, or it will be a frigate soon, from 52 down to 40 and require a down select to a single shipyard in fiscal year 2019. Now, this is an unusual circumstance where that's the Secretary of Defense's position, but that's not the Secretary of the Navy's position. Secretary of the Navy publicly disagrees with Secretary of Defense about this. The sudden and unexpected reduction from 52 to 40 ships proposed by the administration will increase the cost of the ships. The Congressional Budget Office says it will increase the cost of each ship by 20%. We've questioned the Navy about this in HASC hearings, and they agree with that assessment. By taking this step, the Navy will actually be causing the cost of ships to increase at the precise moment they're moving into serial production, the point at which they will actually begin to see return on the investment that we've made, this committee's made, Congress has made, years past. This committee will remember that 2 years ago, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, a prior Secretary of Defense, paused the program for 9 months to allow the Navy to conduct an in-depth analysis of the requirements to implement the Secretary of Defense directive to increase both the lethality and the survivability of the LCS as it transitioned to the frigate. This analysis revalidated the need for 52 ships and maintained the dual supplier strategy with both Austal USA and Mobile and the Marinette Marine in Marinette, Wisconsin. This plan both met the Navy's requirement for 52 ships, reduced costs through competition, and ensured the stability of the industrial base of both shipyards. And I know this committee is well aware of the importance of industrial base. As you likely know, the Department of Defense and Navy have been publicly at odds about the future of these programs. The need for these ships was highlighted just last month in an Armed Services Committee hearing where Undersecretary Stackley, the head of the U.S. Naval Acquisition, stated the requirement for the vessels remains at 52. So the Navy continues to say they need 52. He also stated that there was no Navy analysis indicating anything but a 52-ship requirement would meet the Navy's needs. Any reduction, this is his words, would create gaps in our small surface combatants that are an important tool for operational commanders. Now, this is an important component for the entire fleet, but it's critical to support the Pentagon's pivot to the Asia-Pacific region. The LCS has proven its utility in the region by routinely accessing places other larger ships simply can't get into. That's why these are called littoral combat ships. Just last month, in testimony before the Armed Services Committee, Admiral Harris, the PACOM commander, called the LCS, quote, a terrific platform to work with our allies and partners in that region, close quote. The Secretary of the Navy, as I said earlier, is repeatedly outlining his strong support for the program and the need for 52 ships. The LCS has adhered to strict contractual and budgetary constraints and is locked into fixed price contracts at a congressionally mandated cost cap. The LCS program has seen cost decreases over time, and ships today are being built at a total appropriation cost of $475 million per hull, well under the cost cap. By the way, both states and both shipyards invested in these shipyards to meet that cost cap based on a 52-ship buy. So if we go down, we have basically violated what we told those two shipyards when we imposed that cost cap on them. I want to make that point. We also need to be clear about the dangers posed by down select from 2 shipyards to 1. This would in all likelihood put one of the shipyards out of business completely. And it would be devastating for the industrial base that we, the committee, the Armed Services Committee, have worked so hard to build up. It's also become abundantly clear that delaying production of the LCS would significantly reduce the size of our fleet and damage Americans' national security. In turn, this would force the Navy to cover the same geographic area with significantly fewer assets, which they say they just simply can't do. Because of these considerations, I asked the subcommittee to support the funding necessary to procure 3 Littoral Combat Ships in this next year's budget. Now, let me briefly address the Joint High-Speed Vessel. This ship is a shallow draft, high-speed catamaran used for the intra-theater support of personnel, equipment, and supplies. I personally talked to combatant commanders as well as the Marine Corps about this ship, and they've all stressed its importance. The vessel is a Swiss Army knife, if you will. It's able to support a wide range of missions for all the services. It can be a troop transport, it can conduct humanitarian disaster missions, and it can even be used as a hospital ship. Since delivery of the first vessel, these ships have supported a wide range of operations around the globe, including assisting in recovery operations after the Indian earthquake and tsunami in 2004 and the Japanese earthquake and tsunami in 2011. As we're meeting here today, the USNS Spearhead is completing their 3rd deployment in the 6th Fleet Area of Responsibility to support operations in EUCOM and AFRICOM. Clearly, these vessels are effectively filling a critical gap. The USNS Spearhead recently supported a successful anti-piracy operation. Other EPFs are currently deployed to PACOM and CENTCOM, providing support and operational tasking for the respective fleet commanders. Of note, these ships are being outfitted with different capabilities to support the different needs of each of these areas. Unfortunately, the President's budget fails to recognize this fact, and the EPF meets so many of our Navy's operational needs. The stated requirement for the number of these ships is 18, but to this point, 6 have been delivered, and only another 6 are under contract, so we got a gap of another 6. The acquisition of one of these ships in fiscal year 2017 will continue to meet service demands and keep the cost per vessel down. We are benefiting from the efficiencies gained through the construction of the initial 6 ships. In order to ensure the capability to build these ships and maintain such an affordable price, we need to keep the production line open. Unfortunately, without further procurement in fiscal year 2017, this line will close. In closing, I want to emphasize how important it is we support our nation's Navy as a whole. I come here every year to talk to you about 2 ships, but I don't want you to think I just support 2 ships. It's the whole fleet that we need to be talking about. I know that you care about the whole fleet. This is an incredibly challenging time with such a wide range of challenges everywhere around the world. It would be irresponsible, in my judgment, to halt investment in our nation's Navy capabilities and resources at this point in time. Mr. Chairman, I know you understand the vital importance of the Navy's fleet, as you do, Ranking Member, and the need to get our ship total numbers back up to the level required in order to protect our nation and keep our sea lanes free and open, particularly in the face of what China is attempting to do in the South China Sea. In order to do that, we must have the strong, reliable, well-trained industrial base to construct and maintain the fleet. Whether it's the over 4,000 men and women that work at Austal Shipyard in my district, or the thousands of people who work just across the state line in Mississippi at the Huntington Ingalls Shipyard, we must maintain our workforce that we've worked so hard to cultivate on our Gulf Coast. Thank you so very much for your time today and for your support for these programs. I thank you for your continued support for our Navy. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for being here once again, strongly supporting our Navy. We don't have enough ships, and certainly the ones we have need to all these special capabilities. And thank you for emphasizing that point each and every year. We work very closely, as you know, with the Armed Services Committee. We'll try to get those numbers up and meet those requirements, considering what's happening around the world. I really appreciate your being here, your strong support. Mr. Fiskowski.
I also appreciate the emphasis on the industrial base, and not only for the larger contractors, but the smaller. And one of the concerns we have as a committee is that predictability of that workforce. So appreciate you mentioning that very much.
Yes, sir. I didn't mention this. I was the head of workforce development for the state of Alabama, and I know Mississippi did the same thing for their shipyards.
Who did it better, Alabama or Mississippi?
I'm not going to get into that. We both did a good job.
You did.
Because we believe that it's important for our states, but also it's important for national security, that we have those trained workers that create the best ships, the best weapon systems in the world. And while those ships are important, it's the people that make them and the people that serve on them that are really important. So I appreciate your saying.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
we support our industrial base. Thank you very, Congressman.